And I just want to welcome you to talk a little bit about this amazing course that I've really poured my heart and soul into for the last 9 months. And we're extremely excited to launch it. And really, it's been amazing to see the interest that everyone has. Um, Today, we're just going to walk through the course a little bit, give you a little bit of a breakdown of what's in it, talk a little bit about why service learning is such a incredible teaching practice to use. And hopefully all of you will end up taking the course because it's something we're extremely proud of. So again, this is the online course is designing and implementing a service learning experience, and the purpose is really to learn strategies to engage students and facilitate service learning experiences. So I was approached by Arizona State last year around this time, and we were talking about what are the needs and what are the things that we could see across the country that would be meaningful to students, meaningful to teachers, and what kind of experience we want to create. And I was talking about service learning, and they said, "Wow, we've never seen an online course for that before." And I said, "Exactly." And so here's just to show a little bit of a picture. That's me a little over 20 years ago in the classroom, just trying to figure things out, trying to figure out, how to connect with your students as we all are trying to do. And that's when I first started using service learning, and it completely changed my mentality. And it also, more importantly, completely changed the mentality of my students, the way that their attendance, of course, their test scores, and more importantly, that sense of purpose, that sense of being connected to their community, helped them thrive, helped with mental health, and all those things that are really important to our students. So for the last 20 plus years, I've dedicated my entire career to service learning and really just trying to find the best ways to lift youth and give them a platform to be able to really plan and execute a project from beginning to end. And so some of the benefits that we've seen really about youth-led service is that all of the research tell us that it helps improve your college and career readiness skills. It helps students develop leadership skills. Of course, it increases that academic engagement and then gives students the opportunity to really discover agency, discover that community around them, which gives purpose. So about, I want to say 13 years ago, we had what was called Learn and Serve America. It was a $40 million program, right? People across the country had service learning coordinators. People were thriving. I was still teaching at the time, and I just felt like there were other people doing service learning, and it was just amazing, right? Well, when we lost that program, we lost a lot of momentum. And unfortunately, you start looking at the data, and we've been stagnant for the last 13 years. That means we've been about 23, depending on the study, 23 to 25% of students are involved in a meaningful service project. That means that we're leaving out 3 out of 4 students. And so when we're leaving that many students out in a meaningful service learning experience, that means we all have to step up and find ways to engage our students in a meaningful service learning experience, which is really why we created this course, to make it easy, to make it accessible, to make it something that doesn't feel overwhelming. So for the past year, I've been interviewing students, teachers, administrators, not just ones that love service learning, but the ones that say, "Look, Scott, I want to do it, but I'm just not sure I'm ready with everything else on my plate." And that's completely understandable. But if you look at where we are right now, mental health has skyrocketed to number 1 on the list as far as issues that students are the most concerned about. And we know that when a student plans a service learning project, when a teacher facilitates a service learning project in their classroom, we know that that can improve students' mental health. We also know that recently, this past year, something remarkable happened. The CDC came out with strategies that reduce negative health outcomes. And guess what's on that list for the first time I've ever seen in my entire life? Service learning opportunities. So we have a mental health crisis, and then we have the CDC coming out to say, look, Service learning is a way to improve mental health in our students. Looking at that information and considering that, we tried to develop, and we did develop, what I believe is the most interactive and easy to implement into your classroom online course in partnership with Arizona State University. Just a little bit of basics that we get into in the course, but we talk a little bit about community service and service learning. We talk a little bit about how community service is a little more, structured, showing up for something. Nothing wrong. We love community service because it's a great way to get your feet wet. It's a great on-ramp to service learning. But a lot of community service is planned by adults. Many of the community service requirements we see at Youth Service America don't usually have a reflective component. But again, they can be a great gateway. But once you get into service learning, that's when you start seeing students light up. So if you look at all of the different structures there, essentially what ends up happening is students are planning that project from beginning to end, and they're able to investigate an issue, really work collaboratively with their peers to be able to plan and work in different teams to plan a project. And then we know that reflection, not just writing in a journal, but through art, through music, through poetry, is really giving students an opportunity to not only reflect on what's happening, how this service project, service learning experience helped themselves, but also help their community. And really giving students a chance to take the lead beginning to end, and for a teacher to facilitate meaningful conversations. And so what we do in this course is we walk you through some of the basic stuff. Like, hey, what you're doing now, you look at Thanksgiving time period, this is the time from now until winter break where you're doing a lot of projects, canned food drives, school cleanups, beautification projects. How do you make those a little bit better? So we talk about that. And then for those of you who have already used service learning, we talk about, taking it even deeper with your students. How can you really focus on what's happening before a project starts with that research, during a project with a lot of the interaction and youth voice and reflection, and after the project when we talk about really being able to reflect, demonstrate, and of course celebrate what your students have been able to do in their community. Now, here's one of the things when I started talking to, having these really meaningful conversations with educators across the country. I wanted to hear what were their concerns. So a lot of what I spent time on, because we know when you do service learning and you've used it in the classroom, you never want to stop. It becomes a part of the culture. It becomes a part of your daily teaching. But what I've heard a lot of is we need to focus on their academic subject areas, math, reading, science, social studies. This course shows you exactly how to integrate it into your academic studies so it does not feel like an add-on. A lot of things is we'll hear people say it's hard to get students to work nicely together. Wow, we see amazing collaboration when students are helping to make the community, helping to improve the community or their school. That's when we really start to see students navigate because they have that sense of purpose and they gain those 4 C's, the critical thinking, the communication, the collaboration, the creativity. We see that really flourish in the students. The other thing we've heard is it feels overwhelming to take a project on by myself. And that key word there is what? Myself. Once you start taking this course, you'll realize that the myself turns into us as a team, us as a classroom, and you realize it's not overwhelming at all. It's empowering for you and it's empowering for your students. The other concern that I heard a lot of is there's so many different needs and interests among the students. That's a really valid concern, but what we show you is some interest surveys, some things that you can do to really make sure that the management aspect of a service learning experience is something that's empowering, youth-led, student voice is the core of it, but there's components of it that make sure that there are bits and pieces where students can take their own passion, their own spark, and integrate it into that project. And then we also talk about budget. Well, guess what? You don't need to have money to do a meaningful service learning experience, and that's what we show you. I think that's been a common myth for many years is that you need money to plan a meaningful service project. Couldn't be further from the truth, and we will show that to you in the course. And so a lot of what we do here is really walk you through. So I took a lot of this into consideration, looked at a lot of amazing organizations like NYLC, the National Youth Leadership Council. There are so many great organizations out there that have great resources and that we've collaborated with to create this course. And so we really want to complement the great things that they've already done. So just a quick deep dive, and then we'll answer some questions that anyone might have. But designing and implementing, what we're really looking to do is A, inspire your students to plan a project. Might be short term, maybe in a week, might be a little longer term for some of you, might be a semester or more. Really meets you where you're at there. Really learning the practical strategies for community change. What can it look like to do a project where the students can actually see the impact and not feel overwhelmed for you as an educator who already has a lot on their plate? And then the other thing is boosting those collaboration skills. So giving students an opportunity to really work as a team, to understand that there are opportunities to plan a project and that they're in charge, but it takes a lot of those durable skills that we know are so important to students to be successful in college, to be successful in their future career. So now you, as an educator, what you're looking for, I know you're all probably already really great at this, right? Facilitation skills. What are the best practices in facilitating a project that empowers students and where you don't end up with everything on your plate? Partnership strategies. How can you reach out to a partner and not just have them speak to students, but become a collaborator? Cross-curricular, super important. How do you integrate into one subject or 5 subjects? This shows you not only lesson plans that you can use that are super easy to use and don't take a lot of time, but also things that you can do behind the scenes for your students to elevate that experience. And then, of course, youth leadership development. This is where we see students start to shine, and you'll see students that aren't necessarily that student council president or those 4 or 5 kids that are always raising your hands. That's when you start seeing students you've never seen jump out of their seats before, and is by far the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. So some of the quick facts. It's technically the self-paced course or at your own pace, or facilitated, is a 15-hour course. Now, you could do it in much less than that, but that would be the maximum time that it would take. The price for the self-paced course is $149. I worked with ASU as a former teacher and someone that works at a nonprofit. I worked to get it as the lowest possible price that they would give, and they were really, really kind to bring it down to that price of $149. And then, of course, there's this $149 is for the online self-paced course, and you get a certificate upon completion. I'll show you what that screen looks like and exactly all the other options as well. But right now, what I want to do is give you a little bit of a course overview so you can see what it looks like inside. Because I think this is a good chance to kind of see how we put pieces together to make sure that you're not feeling overwhelmed as you look at this course. So what I'm going to share with you now, this is the registration page. What you're seeing here, obviously, is what was shared in that email when you signed up. It talks a little bit about the overview, and then you can see kind of like a preview of the certificate, and you can sign up for other components here of the course. Now, we have obviously a few different options here. You can take the course as a self-paced course. You can also add in that micro credential. I know a lot of school districts have that. All that is just a small, pretty simple project that you would do just to show that you understood and can demonstrate what you learned. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy, but that is an additional $99, and that's so you can get that micro credential for your school district. And then if you are interested in taking this course with a group, let's say of 10 or 15 or 20 of your colleagues, if you're an administrator or you're at a school and maybe you're a curriculum coach, that you can sign up for as well. And that starts at around $349 or less, depending on how many people signed up. And in that, you can join a community. You will get actual expert advice for projects that you're looking at planning. And then, of course, we can add in some coaching time where I would love to work with you and provide any advice. But that, of course, goes for anybody who signs up for this. Now, just to give you an idea of what it looks like, I wanted to give you just a little bit of an overview of what each of the modules in the course looks like. So once you register for the course, you will obviously get a home screen, but these are kind of the areas. You, of course, have that welcome. And then what we talk about is a nice little basic 101 intro to service learning, some of the basics that just kind of get you in the right mindset to take the course. Now, instead of boring you or overwhelming you with a whole bunch of acronyms, we really broke this course down into before, during, and after. Really a simplified version based on all the best practices from semester of service or all the great things they're doing at NYLC to really break it down in something that's feasible and easy to understand. And so we talk about what do those conversations look like with students? The number one thing that I heard when I interviewed teachers across the country that they were the most concerned and worried about, what does the first 15 minutes look like with my students? And so what we did is we pieced together some lesson plans, best practices, some books, children's books that you can use to really work with your students, of course, kindergarten through, P through 20, to work with your students to plan a project, feel excited, and for you as a teacher to have that really simple process for them to feel engaged and for you to not feel overwhelmed because it's right there and it uses research that works. So that's the before. Then we start going into that in the middle, that during section. We give you lesson plans, best practices, stuff we've never shared before, but we just created for this course on ways that students can plan in a very simplified, manageable way. And then we talk about how can students document their project, how you as a facilitator can provide really meaningful reflection, and then ways in which students can collaborate in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming or stressful, and things that you can do in a very manageable way. Then we talk about what you can do after, which of course is that reflection, potentially, which I think is the most beautiful thing, is that demonstration component where students talk just a short reflection of what they did, like how the impact was on themselves, as well as the impact they made in their community. And then we talk about what's next. Is there a sustainability component to this? And then we talk about what other ways that you can work with students to make sure that this is a fun and easy thing. So you take this course and it's not just going to be something you're like, oh, that was cool, but I don't have time for it. We talk about practical ways to build it into what you're doing. So those are the components. And if you look a little bit, we start talking a little bit about things that already exist out there. So for example, we break down, I'll show you a couple of sections here. We break down things like what is project-based learning? We know PBL, social emotional learning, those are huge out there, and I'm a huge fan of them. So we show what are the differences between the two. And what you'll find is that project-based learning is amazing, but a lot of it is usually within the school walls, whereas service learning is a little bit more of getting out there, right? And being able to see the impact that you made. And we start going into just showing how they complement each other, if you're trying to make the case. Then we start going into areas like college and career readiness. We have a lot of videos built in here from actual teachers and students, and they're showing you throughout the course how it's impacted them, how they use the 4Cs, how they use durable skills. We have educator spotlight. We have really cool little virtual, easy ways for you to go through. So it's not something where you're going to be sitting there trying to like keep yourself awake during the course, because we know that attention is difficult these days. So we built in things that you're going to be sitting upright the whole time looking at your screen, but we're also not there to put pressure on you. So it's fun, it's easy, and it's not get a 5 out of 5 or you won't move on. It's just a fun process for you to go through and feel like you're able to walk away. And then we always have these cool little links to research. And of course, we have different lesson plans and very simplified things. Basically, what I did through this is I took the best of the best from other organizations, from YSA, of course, and really took and said, look, if I'm planning a project and I'm in the classroom, what are the things that we know work? And what are the things we know that are not going to overwhelm teachers who are already overwhelmed? And so, really, that's what the course looks like. And the ultimate goal is for you to walk away, and whether you're a beginner or someone who's a little more, who has already done this before, the goal is for you to feel empowered, that other people are going through the same process as you. So that's the course. And of course, you can sign up for it. What we're going to do now is we're going to answer questions. So I'm going to stop recording this portion of it.